Good afternoon, everybody. My name's James Ski. I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Confidence, and today we're co-hosting this event with Freshworks CRM. And I've got two fantastic speakers, Patrick Traynor and Raymond Hoffman, who I'll introduce in more detail shortly. For those of you that are shy, this today is going to be talking about a stellar seller experience is your competitive advantage as a sales leader. Thank you, Teddy. Good to know that we're there. And for the rest of the audience, just say hi and let us know where you're dialing in from when you arrive. So just to give you an overview of how today's going to go, Freshworks, our partner, did a study earlier in the year in collaboration with the Harvard Business Review with over 350 global sales leaders about the effectiveness and productivity of their sales team. Now, we've taken some of those insights and we're going to be sharing those in this presentation today. What I'm really grateful, though, is that there's going to be some key discussions with two experienced sales leaders in Patrick and Raymond. So just to give you a bit of an insight, Freshworks CRM is an AI-powered customer relationship management solution that combines the power of the sales CRM, marketing automation, chat, and telephony in a single comprehensive solution. Now, excitingly, they've built it on top of their next-gen customer engagement platform, and the CRM is a single source of truth, providing a 360-degree view of all of your contact, customer, and service information. Now, we're going to be highlighting today and discussing the topic of creating a stellar seller experience as a competitive advantage. And I'm going to be drawing on our two leaders to share some of their context. First up, we've got Patrick Traynor. Patrick was actually originally the first hire outside the US for LinkedIn back in 2008. He ended up spending 7 years building multiple teams across multiple regions before leaving to consult early stage startups and scale-ups across the UK. He most recently settled at Mixpanel over the last 18 months, being responsible for the EMEA and LATAM region. Pat, do you just want to say hi?
Hi, James. Great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you very much for getting involved, Patrick. Looking forward to hearing more of your experiences and insights as we go through today's discussion. Our guest speaker, representing Freshworks, who are our major partner today, is Raymond Hoffman, who is the General Manager for Benelux and Nordics of Freshworks. Now, he's got extensive software experience, 10 years spent within companies like IBM, HP, and also LinkedIn. So today, and this wasn't originally by design, you've actually got 3 LinkedIn alumni. Raymond's got proven experience scaling and building out sales organizations, and he's someone that focuses on the intrinsic motivation of his sales team. He cares about positive thinking, he cares about the talent in his team, and he also cares about delivering results. So we're going to be drawing on their experiences as we go through the discussion. Raymond, thanks for being here today.
Hi, James. Good to be here with you as well. I'm Patrick.
Excellent. Look forward to hearing more of your insights and experience. So let's just set the topic for today. Why are we talking about the stellar experience? Well, never has it been more important, especially in the difficult year we've had building sales organizations, to think about how your sales team feel. Do you truly care about the seller experience? Because that positive seller experience leads to a happier and more productive sales team, as well as happier buyers. Just to give us a little bit of context, Pat, to invite up our first contribution, just so we understand where you're drawing on your experiences, can you just share a little bit about your most recent experience as a sales leader at Mixpanel and the type of sales organization that you oversee?
Yeah, certainly. So Mixpanel's an amazing product. I actually first came across it at a couple of startups before I joined. We're a product analytics tool that'll explain how your customers are interacting with your app or your website. The team we have here at Mixpanel covers the EMEA and LATAM region. So everything from kind of Moscow all the way down to Argentina, if you like. We're split into 3 teams. That's new business, AEs, existing clients covered by our relationship managers. And then we have quite a large presence for self-service. So it's providing the online self-service environment for a kind of freemium model. So that's the setup of the team at the moment.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing. Raymond, what about your team that you oversee?
Well, actually, I started with Freshworks probably 1.5 years ago, slightly over 1.5 years ago. I've hired about 50 people since then, people with a lot of energy and sparkling eyes. And yeah, we are a team with marketing people, BDRs, salespeople, and also technical people and people that actually take care of the customer success. So it's end-to-end sales team that works together and collaborates together in an organization that is constantly in building mode, right? But we share a mantra together or a purpose that we call customer for life. So we're really united in the purpose that we're here for.
Excellent. And so it's interesting, both of you oversee not just frontline sales people, but also the individuals that support the sales people on the front line. And I think there's a part in building the culture that creating a great seller experience extends to the team that you're also supporting to drive sales success. I'm really interested to draw on your experience as a leader and the journey that you've been on to become a great leader. Patrick, can you maybe draw on some of your career experience to talk about some of the highlights of how you think about being a leader of a sales organization?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big question. I think going back to my early days in my first role as a leader, with some reflection, you look back and you realize what I was really doing was simply managing a process. It was much less about trying to understand the happiness of the team. A happy team mainly involved just going drinking on a Friday and making money, right? So I think the evolution after that was really about understanding all the other things that go into truly motivating people to achieve more than they would if left to their own devices. And I think in particular, my time with some of the startups, really kind of brings that into stark contrast. Perhaps I think in a startup, it's harder just to be hidden as you might be in a larger organization. So as a leader, it's much more important that you truly understand what is real for your team, that they achieve results, and that you're helping your team develop. So I think the combination of working for some large businesses and some much smaller startups, I think has helped me understand, really what that frontline team is looking for a leader to bring to the table.
Awesome. And Raymond, what about your own journey of developing your thought process as a sales leader and how you approach leadership as a whole?
Yeah, that's a great question to phrase it as a journey, right? Because every time you look back in your life, you always think, well, then I didn't actually know what I was doing, but now I know better. And then if you 10 years ahead, you think back, oh, actually, I was clueless back then, but I thought I knew it. So this is a continuous journey, right? So the moment that I look at it now, basically looking back early in my career, I met somebody who was kind of a mentor. And I've always had in my career people who have been teaching me things, right? Sometimes for them even not knowing about it, but yeah, I had plenty of mentors. So in the beginning of my career, I was actually involved in setting up a data center, like one data center for the whole of the Nordics, Benelux, and UK and I, which we call Geoplex Maritime, which was in IBM, which required a lot of traveling. And a mentor I had back then became general manager of CG and I later. And he said one thing to me: Raymond, whatever you do, make an impact, make a difference. If you look back at what you have done, something should have changed. And if you were not there, that would not have happened, right? And only then it matters what you do. So he said, always make sure it matters. Second thing he said, you have to build relationships, right? When you do things, look at the current relationships that you have, leverage them, make them better, and also look at building new relationships. And in all the countries that I was working, It was very much stakeholder management, getting everybody aligned, the clients, the internal organization. And at the same time, he said the third thing you need to focus on is developing yourself, right? And once you continuously develop yourselves and help others that you're leading also develop themselves, you can always be proud of what you do, right? So he said these three elements are important in life and also in your career when you work with people. So that's something that always stuck with me.
Excellent. And, we're talking here about the culture and creating a quality experience for the sellers within the sales organization. And I noticed there you mentioned as one of the points about relationships and the importance of relationships. It just dawned on me as we were putting this together, we all share a collective experience of LinkedIn as an organization that had a world-class culture and really strong values. And one of those values, if I recall, was I think relationships matter. And we've seen how that's extended for many of us as we've gone on to build other businesses. And Pat, just as a small kind of side note, are there any experiences that you draw on from your time at LinkedIn that you've brought into how you think about culture and purpose and building sales teams in other businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple of key messages I remember taking away from my time at LinkedIn. One of them, first of all, is that the business, the company doesn't have a culture, right? It's the leadership who sets the culture. They set the tone. And then it's your team that then goes and spreads that culture through the rest of the organization. And I think when you accept that culture comes from leadership, often it doesn't come from some mythical part of the business. You then have accountability and responsibility for creating that and perpetuating that, or building it if it's not there. So I think that's one of the first things. And on a really kind of practical point, there was a great piece of training we had at LinkedIn about conflict management and about how you have a clean escalation. That typical scenario where one rep's arguing with another and they go behind your back, and before you know it, you've got another manager coming at you. Right? Really didn't tend to happen at LinkedIn because they followed a really strong, clean escalation process. And that's something I've taken to pretty much every business I've been to since to try help reduce conflict and build a much better culture. Excellent.
What about yourself, Raymond?
Yeah, thank you, James, for that question. And it really resonated with me, Pat, what you just said there. Good memories, clean escalation. For me, it starts with defining the core. And this is something that Jeff Weiner, the previous CEO of LinkedIn, always was really big about, right? So if you have a company that grows fast, which LinkedIn did, and actually the company that I work for now as well, it's in constant building mode. And if you're hitting for one of the stars, right, and you're 1 degree off, you're going to be massively missing, right? So it's really, really important that the core is really strong. And what he meant by that is that you really need to define your why as a company. And probably you all remember, right? This is creating economic opportunity. And you need to know very clear about what you want to achieve. But more importantly, in LinkedIn, it's all about how you do things matters most, right? And that's the culture. And the culture in LinkedIn, as you just referred to, James, I think is really strong. So I took that with me, and also in Freshworks, any other company that I would potentially work for in the future, I will be looking for strong cultures, or to build myself, but also to reinforce, embrace, and lead with it. I think it's really, really important. Second thing that came to my mind actually is Reid Hoffman, right? He is really big about startup of youth and transformation. So in these days, when change is constant, right, it's really important that we continuously reinvent ourselves and really, look how we can transform ourselves constantly. And the final thing, James, and then I'll stop because I know you have other things you want to discuss, but I think it's really important for the audience to know about conscious business, right? Maybe Patrick, probably you still remember Fred Kaufman. He was the company philosopher, right? And he was really big on conscious business. And in leadership, it's extremely important that you realize everything that you do has a ripple effect, right? So really being conscious about what you do, and everything is connected to what you do and what the effects are. So if you have not read it, I really recommend you to check it out, Conscious Business.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. And I look forward to drawing on more of those experiences as we go through this presentation. And you've talked about change is constant. With that change, we've had to adapt this year. and I'm looking forward to how you've kind of looked out for your sales organizations during this adaptation. So, we're highlighting the building blocks of creating a great seller experience, and the word culture has already come up multiple times in this first segment. It's also your responsibility. It's leadership that must focus on creating that culture to drive happiness, also as a strategic priority. And of course, something we want to talk about and think about is the importance of the sales technology stack you've got within your organization. So just thinking about your own sales organization this year, there's had to be an adaptation for, a global pandemic that's adapted and impacted all of us. Before we get into some of the structures and frameworks, how have you reinforced your culture and tried your best, Patrick, to support positivity through what has been a very difficult year as a sales leader?
Yeah, it has really been quite challenging to maintain some of the old processes and structures that you had that just kind of organically creates that kind of positivity and that vibe in the office, right? When everybody's working from home, you really have one hand tied behind your back. I've tried all sorts of things actually. I think I remember when we kicked off, we had a coffee morning every morning, and the idea was you turn up, have your coffee, and there'd be some general sort of early morning chat amongst those who were free to do so, and that survived for a time, but then became a little bit repetitive, and so you have to evolve and find the next thing. I think we've settled into a better pattern now, and I think a couple of the key things are, one is going much deeper on one-to-ones. So I think rather than having frequent short one-to-ones, myself and my team find it better to have less frequent but deeper, more meaningful. Back to the point Raymond made about having impact, right? You can have a quick one-to-one and skim the surface, or spend a little bit more time with somebody and really go deeply into the challenges they're facing or the issues they're dealing with clients or what have you. And I think that's where you can produce a greater impact for your team. I think the second one also is giving people the opportunity to show leadership themselves. And I've always been a great fan of finding things that can be delegated, either a side project or a particular aspect of a team meeting you might run. So something I've gone through during this period of working from home is to actually identify which of the meetings I've been running, which frankly can be run just as well, if not better, by members of my team. It's a force multiplier as well when you delegate strongly. And I hope that the members of my team are, appreciating the opportunity to take on that leadership, add new experiences to what they're doing. So despite us being trapped at home and we all desperately want to be a team in the office, they are still gaining new experiences and finding things that challenge and push them in their careers. So it's all about adapting. I don't think the journey's over. I'm sure there'll be sort of further things that we need to iterate on, but that's where we've got to so far.
That's really interesting and some really valuable practical points there, especially from those in-depth one-to-ones and how you're delegating responsibility to others in the team to step up and contribute. Raymond, you talked about building, a significant organization over the last year and a half. Is there some experiences from the approach and the process that you took on that journey? And also, maybe some insights about how you've adapted the team this year as well.
Yeah, James, it's nice to hear also from you, Pat, actually, and nice to share these experiences and learn from each other. So, of course, before the pandemic hit, I started building this team. So we became straight from the beginning. We had people, process, performance as a sort of, how we divide our attention. So I focused entirely on people in the first 3 months, right? And I also explained this to my team. It's really important that we hire the right people, we develop the right people, and also if people are not the right fit, and are not happy in the role, that we move on quickly and we find them something else where they can become happy. So people was like the first focus, right? Then I started focusing more on processes. And once we got that right, and it's never 100% right because we continue to build, right? So you continue to focus on that, but at least the accent was there, the focus was there. And then the third focus was finally performance. But if you start focusing on performance straight from the beginning, that works in the short run, but never works in the long run, right? So you need to build the right team and the right processes. So this is something we started with. And then it's one of the underlying themes that we have been managing for the previous 3 quarters before COVID hit was trust. How do you create trust within a team? How can you really rely on each other? And this, we didn't know back then, but how important it is now, because now you don't see each other face to face very often, right? But you still have to collaborate. And it's really, really important. Although sometimes you're disappointed by somebody else because somebody might not be doing what you would do, right? Or expect somebody to do. Still, it's probably a pretty good professional, and you may get new perspectives if you actually listen to them and if you're open-minded. So trust is really a foundation that we build upon. We have changed a few things when COVID hit. First of all, psychological freedom, psychological safety is really important, right? Because if that's not there, people may start acting differently, may not act very healthy for customer interactions. So for all the sellers, we made sure from a financial point of view, there was not going to be any risk. So we had a sort of guarantee for all sellers that they would come close to their OTE, whatever happened.
Wow. And
in that perspective, they engage with clients not without being based on being anxious or something like that. They were full confident. And in that way, they were much better able also to help clients. So this is one of the first things we did. Then the team actually asked me to organize an 8:30 meeting every day. So every day we have sort of an agenda where people share what's on their mind, what their business goals are, what the status is on the goals, but also what they have learned from customer organizations, so everybody else can learn from that, what they have learned from solutions that we have. And basically we always go out with a fun fact, right? Because it's also important to keep laughing and don't take yourself too seriously in these times. We are sometimes cracking jokes and we're all over the floor together and we still have fun. Just recently, I delivered a box to everybody's house with chocolates and marshmallows and some fudge and some cream. And your doorbell was just ringing, Patrick, right? And then another package arrives from your colleagues, right? And this is how we try to keep things a little bit light as well, but really stay united in what we have set as a foundation as our purpose.
Well, that's amazing, and I mean that's a truest example of focusing on your people's experience despite a hugely difficult changing landscape. I love the connection to, if we look after our people, they're going to create a better experience for the buyer. And actually that leads nicely on to, what's your view of this stellar sales experience? What does it mean to you to create a stellar sales experience for your team and your organization? And how does the sales experience of being looked after and feeling good impact, therefore, the buyer? Pat?
Yeah, I think, Raymond made a really good point about sort of creating an environment in which the sales team, the seller, is reassured, right? These last few months have been really unsettling, change of work environment, especially people on the new business side, very anxious about their income change. And as a business, we've gone quite some distance actually in reassuring the team that we would constantly evaluate how the market is moving and then react to that market by changing things, possibly targets, in order to create a realistic opportunity to earn. And I think that's something that the team really appreciates, knowing that the business is behind them and supporting them. I think from a buyer's point of view, the buyers can always tell if you are a happy salesperson or not, right? You can be the most structured, have the greatest control and discipline in your sales methodology, but if frustrations or anxiety comes through in that selling process, I think most buyers will sense that in the journey. certainly it's really obvious when a salesperson is full of enthusiasm, belief in the product, and is maintaining a degree of sort of upbeat lightheartedness about things, because that feedback comes back to me often with customers saying things along the lines of, if it hadn't been for how much your team member believed in the product, we might not have bought it, or we might have taken much longer, but they were just so enthusiastic. And so it definitely feeds through into the buyer experience if you can build an environment in which the team feel supported. And I think Raymond hit it right on the head when he talked about trust. I absolutely everything, I think, begins with trust. The team have to trust you as their first line manager, their first point of contact. The team have to trust that you've got their back, right? That you've got their best interests at heart, and that the team environment you're creating is a safe space for them, especially at the moment, because in this work from home environment for many of us, you need to have an open space in which it's safe for the team members to share their anxieties or fears about how their role is going, their sales opportunities, and so on. You can do that much more easily in an office dynamic, but it's much tougher right now. So I think trust and having that open environment is really key to generating happy sales team who can then go out there and buyers can sense that it's an enjoyable place to work with a great product that feeds through in the way the team interacts with the buyers, for sure.
Yeah, amazing. Just to add it, despite us all sitting behind the screen and not having that face-to-face interaction with buyers or as much with each other, you can still feel, you can still get a sense of the energy from the other individuals that you're interacting with. And if they're not feeling looked after as sales professionals, it's hard for them to radiate positivity to the buyers, and that is going to impact that experience. Raymond, what do you have to add around creating this stellar sales experience and how it crosses over to the buyer experience?
Actually, it just made me think of transmitting the energy, right? So yesterday I was actually on a call with a client, and I was together with one of my reps, and there was a bit of a situation that we needed to solve. So we said, okay, we'll bake some cakes for you, and with a nice logo of our company, and we'll celebrate a little bit, the going live, and everything went well eventually. So actually, and I told them that we have just sent to all our employees some oven gloves branded with our logo. And she said, can I see it, right? And then I showed the oven gloves, and she's like, oh. So it was so much fun. So people buy from people. So I think Patrick was spot on. And it's all about the relationship that you can build. And even virtually, you can build great relationships, right? And if people feel being part of something great, if you have this journey that you were talking about, James, right? And people feel like they're on the rocket ship, as we call it, and they buckle up and they're part of this journey, then there is great energy within the team. And energy, it's really, emotion is energy in motion, right? And if you feel it, if you feel that energy, you can definitely transmit it virtually. I'm 100% convinced about it. So I think, we cover the topic in this way, Patrick, quite nicely together.
I think it's great, and I think those of you that are listening and in leadership positions, or maybe you're an aspiring leader, those considerations around what you're hearing from these leaders about creating those experiences. Do you feel that in those touch points during the week with your leadership? And you need to think deeply about how you can also impact that experience when you're mentoring and coaching and developing others. So I'm just going to share a few more insights just to summarize some of these points. So as I highlighted, this research was garnered from a Harvard Business Review report that was commissioned by Freshworks. And we've said it, a great seller experience equals a happy team, and happy teams significantly outperform their less happy peers on business metrics such as percentage of sales team hitting quota, opening new business, customer satisfaction, as we highlighted with the buyer journey, and actually performance and greater productivity. So, it's something that is important. It drives strategic priorities for many leaders, and from the data, it's highlighting positive results. Part of the day-to-day experience of a salesperson or people in your team is not just the interaction with the buyers or their colleagues, it's also with the technology they have in their hands. And there's no doubt from this poll, as well as many others, is that 71% of the respondents here said that a poor software technology user experience can negatively impact the sales seller experience. Because, you know, if you are burdened with technology that is cumbersome, difficult to use, poor integrations, it slows you down, it makes it a slog, and it makes you less happy. So we know that sales technology in the CRM plays a crucial role, and we've seen a greater experience for a sales team that has effectively enabled a strong, easy to use CRM. So naturally, I think it would be worthwhile because, of course, you know, we've got Raymond here today representing Freshworks that has driven this event, and you've launched a new CRM. So no doubt you agree with these points. Can we just take a moment, Raymond? Can you just give us some insight into the Freshworks CRM and the problems that you are solving for organizations today?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you look at Freshworks as a company, we have evolved into a platform that kind of resonates to people that are in sales, right? For CRM, but also to customer experience and also from employee experience perspective. So these part of the platform actually are united on a platform that's called Neo. And by having Neo in place, our CRM benefits from a 360 view of the client. And the thing that it does, it basically gives you the insights that you need to take action from multiple perspectives, from marketing, from customer experience, and from sales perspective. And in that way, you can engage with context. And as our founder always says, it's all about context, right? The whole life is about context. If you got the right data at the right time, you can actually truly help clients. If it's powered by artificial intelligence, you can actually proactively solve solutions, solve situations for clients before they even think of it, right? So imagine yourself, you're in right now in the travel business, right? There's lots of reservations that you need to redirect or sometimes need to cancel, and payments that you need to return. You can all do this and automate this, right? So before your clients engage with you, you can already solve this, and you can also engage with them on maybe next opportunities, right? So engaging with insights powered by artificial intelligence, insights that you get from multiple disciplines, you can truly help your clients, solving them situations for them and really surprise them actually. And that's what our CRM allows doing with this technology. Yeah.
Great, thank you for sharing those insights. So, you know, Pat, on this occasion, I think it's you know, we got you here because of your experience as a leadership and someone that set up, you know, multiple sales organizations at early stage businesses, and you're not a Freshworks customer, so I think that makes, you know, you impartial to some of those tips and ideas about when you're thinking about setting up your sales stack and sales technology and CRM. Have you got some kind of points to lean on that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, I think my experience with CRMs will not be unfamiliar to everybody who's listening to this. I mean, let's face it, most of us will have used Salesforce at various points. And, you know, how many points during a week do you interact with somebody in your team who's complaining about how it's not working, it's not producing the data they need? You know, customers are surprised because you know, invoices are being sent out or something which don't match up to what you thought you've created. I mean, you know, there are numerous problems with CRMs. I have tried some of the really sort of low-cost, lightweight ones in some of the small startups I've been at, especially where I've got a sales team who perhaps are not sort of long in the tooth sales reps, and what they're looking for is they're looking for something much more seamless. You know, send some emails, just automatically appears in the CRM. And so I've worked with some teams who would just never develop the habit of writing lengthy notes. It needs to be seamless. And I think that is the direction things are heading, to try and make it a much better experience for the seller, to have all of these different elements of the sales process and the customer brought together in one place, rather than having to log into 6 different tools in order to understand what you sold them, what you've invoiced them, have they contacted support desk. It's a real struggle bringing all that information together. So you're right. I'm not yet a Freshworks customer, but certainly having heard Raymond speak, should I find myself in a situation where I'm tasked with searching for a new CRM, it's on the list, Raymond.
You're welcome.
Good to know. Thank you for sharing those experiences and those points. We've got more data from the report. Teams with great seller experience report ideal sales experience and CRM experiences, and those happier sales teams are more likely to report a greater CRM experience versus those individuals that don't have the tools or the ease of use. And that's following the study with the Harvard Business Review. So without, I don't want to kind of hone on this too much. I think we've covered some really interesting points today in the discussion around the importance of the culture, helping your salespeople feel good and be trusted. You talked about this unified experience, Raymond, of the CRM, and I was just, is there anything else to add around this that you feel like are attributes that really power a greater CRM experience?
Yeah, it relates back to what Pat said. I think that you actually have all this insight from different perspectives, right? And not only across email, but also across phone, across WhatsApp, any other chat application, right? So whatever applications your customers might be using, you're able to interact with them across any channel. And you have that information under your fingertips. And if you power that by machine learning, you get a lot of data and you can learn from it. And that way you can use that data to provide, again, these proactive solutions to your clients. So with AI, you can use that for forecasting, right? So you get much more accurate forecasting. If you have enough data, your forecast will get better and better and better, and it will learn and improve. But at the same time, you can do deal analytics. If you go, let's say, if you zoom deeper for individual sales reps, they will get analytics on the specific deals, on how likely they are to make a next step with you or get to a commit stage. And based on those things, you will also get suggestions on what you need to do to get them to the commit stage. All that data is there, right? Because a lot of things have already been done in the past with other companies as well. So if you have all that data, you can become like a rock star sales provided with the right information at the right time and also suggestions on what you can do. So it can be very predictive. And this will also help your customers grow, right? It will enable you to be a thought leader and help your clients better. So a good CRM doesn't only make you a more happy salesperson, but it will also make your clients happier.
Right.
I think another aspect of a good CRM is about helping the manager lead pipeline review, right? I mean, pipeline review is one of the most boring parts of being a sales leader, and probably even more frustrating for the rep, right? We've all been both sides of this equation, right? Every single week you've got to go through a list of what you're working on. It's crazy. Obviously, where the CRM world needs to go is more towards a place where, like you're saying there, Raymond, that AI is powering the information and steering the conversation in those pipeline reviews to the deals that appear to be going cold, or where some additional interaction is needed. And it's back to the point we made earlier about enabling sales leaders to have impact, not just run through a checklist of what are you trying to close, but actually here's some advice that we can provide on a particular deal that maybe the rep is not paying quite so much attention to. That's where I feel like the marketplace needs to get to a point, is like combining tools like a combination of like Clary, a combination of like Gong, maybe even with recordings. We've just seen Salesforce buy Slack. I bet they wish they'd spent more money on Chatter rather than 27 billion buying Slack, but there you go. So I think all of these different tools brought together would certainly improve the seller experience, if they didn't have to sit through a pipeline review with me every week.
Indeed. I mean, and all that predictability, though, requires good input of data and information into the CRM. And I think, a greater user experience and adoption, therefore, of the CRM, easy to use is something really important. So I'm going to ask you guys to summarize some of your thoughts in a minute as I just round off a couple of other points. Just for those of you in the audience, thank you for staying with us, and hopefully you've been enjoying some of these expertise insights. If you want to head over, there's a section next to the chat area on the right, polls. So if you are, of course, interested in the Freshworks CRM, you can book yourself a demo request. And also there's a couple of questions there about your own thoughts around the importance of sales technology. And if you yourself feel like, you've created a stellar sales experience in your sales team this year. So please do go over there to answer it. It's anonymous. We keep that information to us only. And it's great to get a bit of a view of where you all are on this topic. It was brought just an example here. It's not, uncommon with the points made by both Patrick and Raymond, especially where there's a setup where there's multiple systems that are coming together. Marketing thinks one thing about a buyer, salesperson has a different perspective, the service desk doesn't connect. And I think the strength of the Freshworks CRM, that's been highlighted by Raymond, is bringing it all together and providing that center of truth, so you understand a 360-degree view of what sales and marketing teams needs to work on together. So having that solution, having that one buyer truth, ultimately you're looking for a 360-degree view of your buyer, which means great sales pitches, higher win rates, and more revenue. We've talked about so much today, and I'm glad that you've gained some insights as an audience into Freshworks as a CRM. There's a huge amount of investment going into how they're developing their technology from an AI and machine learning perspective, and I recommend you check it out. Despite what we've said about technology, we've all landed back on the importance of people, the importance of people and your relationships, the importance of the culture that you continue to create even in this remote working world. And ultimately, if you can create experiences where your sales team feels great, they're happy, it's going to lead to greater productivity and lead to greater success with the buyer interaction. So at this point now, before we go to networking, and you can hang around for conversations for one-to-one networking, you just look at that button on the right for the next 15 minutes. It'd be great to hear from Patrick, just a final summary of your points today, and any parting expertise that you would share with our sales leaders when they're thinking about building successful sales teams.
Thanks, James. It's been great to be part of today's discussion. I think from what we discussed, there's probably 3 points I'd draw out. One, I think the most important is trust, creating that environment of trust where the team know that you've got their back and you're fighting their corner for them. I think that's essential. I think the second point, that leaders create the culture and the teams then spread that culture, and that puts that responsibility on us as leaders. I would definitely take that away. The third point is really around building value into the team, right? Through coaching, one-to-ones, career development. I think if we're not building value onto our reps, they will go look for that value somewhere else. So however challenging it is, whatever the obstacles that people are facing immediately, I do have a phrase which is it'll all be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, then it's not the end. So we keep on talking.
Great, thanks Patrick for your contributions today and putting some time aside. Raymond, what are your final parting thoughts for the audience?
Well, as ever, if you build a team or if you set up a new business, to me, the 3 things are really important: people, process, and performance, in that order, right? And when you build that, think about the why you're in the business, how you want to do business, and how the customer would like to see you do business, right? So your proud of yourself in the way you achieve your results. Then if you coach individuals, we spoke about impact that you make, but also how you develop yourself, but also other people, and how you build relationships. And then we get back to the technology that supports it. It should be easy, fast, and affordable. And these are the 3 principles that we have for our disruptive software. It needs to be very intuitive. It needs to be fun to work with. And we should work straight out of the box. And you shouldn't break the bank, actually, to acquire it, right? So this is what we are all about. But I mean, just one word for people to remember. I think enjoy whatever you do. Try to take things not that seriously, and really enjoy what you do, right? Whatever it is.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today for our discussion on creating stellar sales experiences. There were lots of nuggets and takeaways that I believe you can absorb and adapt into your own sales organizations. Absolutely do check out Freshworks CRM. They are hugely disruptive in the CRM market, and the launch of the Freshworks CRM to create a truly centralized destination for all of your marketing, contact, and service data is really, really exciting. So just to once again thank our speakers, I'll raise a figurative glass. This is the final Sales Confidence and Partner or any event for 2020. So those of you that have participated in previous ones, thank you very much for this experience. There's now a few minutes that we've got before you get back onto your day-to-day tasks and get back into whatever CRM you've got to track to get on with your opportunities, to head into the networking area. So this staging area will stop, and you'll be able to head over to the networking section. And I will just say, those of you that are still remaining, it's difficult to connect with people outside of your sales organization and have conversations with different types of people that are not, a prospective customer or a colleague, and be a bit more honest. So, we want to create a sense of belonging and just have a bit of a chit chat. You can have 2 minutes in the networking area and then take it from there. So thanks very much. We'll see you in the networking area and enjoy your days, the rest of December, and have great Christmases, whatever celebrations, and New Year.